For today's business brief, we're joined by Nicki Hutley from Deloitte Access Economics. Nicki, what sort of reaction can you expect, do you think, on the market more broadly within the business community about this surprise election result and win for the coalition?
Look, I think actually the markets will react positively to this, particularly given franking credits will changes will not be going ahead as indicated if Labor had come to office on Saturday night. I think more broadly, though, the direction of the markets, a lot is coming from what's happening in the US-China trade talks. We've got UK Brexit elections, European elections on later this week as well coming forward. So those things will be driving the market most. But as far as business is concerned, look, I think, from people we've talked to amongst our clients, I think there'll actually be a huge sigh of relief. There clearly was some concern around particularly the industrial relations side of what was on Labor's agenda. So I think you might find a bit more positivity, a little bit more certainty. Certainly, we've now got 3 years of more of the same, and so that will help on the investment side of things, I believe.
Yeah, right. Interesting to see how business will react to this. Do you think business might push for tax cuts once again? Is that the new environment which we find ourselves in, or are they still as politically toxic?
Look, there's every possibility that business might push for that, but it's hard to see that the government actually has a mandate to do something about it, because they came to the election with a fairly small platform of change, and to say that they have a mandate to do something as significant as bringing those taxes back on the table. It looks like as well, Labor would oppose it, the Greens would oppose it. It's a question of, of the 6 independents in the Senate, could they get 5 of them? We know Jackie Lambie wasn't that keen last time around. Maybe Cory Bernardi would side. So there's a question of, what's that balance of power look like in the Senate? I think it would be very hard for them to get it through. So unless they're going to do some extraordinary deals for those independent senators, One Nation and the rest, I think it'll be very hard for them to put it on the table this time around.
And in terms of the rest of the government's agenda, obviously tax cuts is the top priority, and in terms of the ratings agencies, consumer sentiment, what's the flow-on effect?
Look, the tax cuts are absolutely vital. It's a relatively big hit to the budget, but it's been factored in because both sides were saying they were going to, whoever won the election, we knew this was going to come to pass. It's bipartisan support, some relief for low-income earners, and it's a necessary fiscal stimulus. Somewhere around 7.5 to 8 billion hits in the economy, the equivalent of around 225-point basis cuts from the Reserve Bank. So it's basically, going to be an important fiscal stimulus. I think that'll go through. I don't think the ratings agencies will be that worried. They're on the path towards surplus, and whilst the coalition ironically have a slower path to surplus than Labor were committing to, it is nevertheless there. What the ratings agencies will be most concerned about is what's the global environment, because Australia is this small open economy, and a lot of what happens to us we can't determine. It's around what's happening in that big global environment. What does it mean for commodity prices and the terms of trade?
Yeah, indeed, and how that trade war, how that unfolds over the coming months. Nicki, thanks so much. Nicki Hutley from Deloitte Access Economics. We'll see you next week.
See you then.